And we are live. I'm Justin Lomness. I'm the Lunatic Libertarian. I'm here with my guest tonight, Travis Bull Johnson, coming to us from Minnesota, running for Congress in District 7, correct, sir? Or Senate?
Seven, House.
Oh, running for the House in District 7, Minnesota. Welcome, Bull. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. It's like anything else. Spring is finally hitting Minnesota, which is basically our mud season. And I'm a livestock farmer, so yeah, it's been an interesting last couple days. I mean, I was up to my knees in water yesterday trying to get electric fence out of the water so it'll work. And because of course, when my cows got out the day before, I ended up at the neighbor's house. He wasn't real happy with that. And yeah, it seems like it never stops, man.
Yeah, it's the never-ending story. I mean, the trials and tribulations of life while you're trying to be a producer is always fun to hear. I mean, out here in Wisconsin, I'm out in farmland too, and I hear all the stories of all the crap people go through just to keep stuff rolling. Fields are wet, can't do anything, trying to keep stuff busy. So yeah, I completely understand that. Um, I want to jump right into your policies and your history, and let people know exactly where you come from, and then how you met Liberty and the Libertarian Party, and why you think that you got what it takes to give everybody that on the federal level.
Well, I'm originally from Louisiana. I'm a 20-year Army vet. Joined the Army originally in 1991. Got out for a little while. Got out in 1997, and was actually out there selling rides. I was selling cars for a living. 2004, I came back and said, you know what? I need to go ahead and finish my education. Let me join the Texas National Guard so I can finish getting my degree. 6 months later, my happy ass is in Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, training in the snow for the desert. While I was there, I decided, okay, at this point, I'm already at almost 8-9 years. I'm almost halfway there. So I went ahead and they had a program going on to allow me to switch back to the regular Army. So I did that at that time and finished up my 20 years in 2018. As to what brought me over,
Congratulations.
as far as what brought me over to the libertarian side is I came up as a Republican. I mean,
Okay.
I was a neocon. I was the whole 9 yards, and over the last decade, you start seeing what else is going on. You start seeing where our money is going, uh, and I still wasn't quite ready to make that jump until 2016. 2016 came around, and I looked at my choices for president and says, "This is the best y'all can do." I could not, in good conscience, vote for Donald Trump. I just didn't feel he had the character, and there was just absolutely no way in heck I could vote for Hillary Clinton. So I started looking, say, what are my other options? And that's when I came across the Libertarian ticket. Did a little bit more research on it. He says, you know what, this is a lot closer to where I am than anything else. So at that point, I went ahead and I switched over to being a libertarian, and haven't really looked back since. I mean, in a lot of ways, I think today's Libertarian Party was the Republican Party of 30 or 40 years ago that I grew up with. The one that was small government, the one that was freedom, let you do your own thing. Uh, I mean, and that party has moved on. It's no longer exists. And in doing so, it's created a term I like to use a lot of times is political orphans. It's when we don't leave the parties have left us. And that's kind of happened to a lot of the liberty-minded people, as well as a bunch of people who used to be the Blue Dog Democrats. They're
Yeah,
physically,
that's true.
I mean, but right now they don't have a home. Uh, so it's been interesting because let me give you a little bit of history about Minnesota when and Liberty. 2008 when Ron Paul ran for president.
Okay.
Minnesota had 13 delegates to the national convention. Ron Paul took 12 of them. Okay, this is just I go out there and I talk to people, and this is in a district where I live where Donald Trump took 65% of the vote. But people introduce themselves not as a Republican, but as Ron Paul Republicans. They want you to know there's a difference, and they are not part of the current establishment process or procedures. And that's part of what gives me so much hope out here. I mean, the current representative we have is a first term Republican congressman or congresswoman, and she's establishment. She's in state politics for 20 years. It's the only job she's ever done has been politics. And that's not what people want anymore. They want a common guy. They want somebody who understands them. And politicians just don't fit that bill.
Well, I
Uh,
think they've lost their role as being a servant to the people instead of being a representative to the people. And I think they've let themselves be bought out by private interest or corporate interest or whatever kind of. I mean, because I've never seen so many people be public servants, quote unquote, and become multi millionaires. So the writing's been on the wall. These people are not what they say they are. They play a role, they get your vote, and then they do whatever it is that their agenda is when they get in there. I mean, and I think a lot more people are starting to realize that the Reds and the Blues, the Democrats and the Republicans are just all one and the same.
and what's making this particular race unique right now is, as of today, it's a two-person race. It's myself
Nice.
and the incumbent. We don't have a Democrat running as of right now. They've got about 30 days or 25 days to come up with somebody, but they've been looking for somebody for a couple months now since redistricting and haven't found anybody willing to do it. Uh,
Nice.
I mean, again, because this is a district that Trump took 65% of this district before redistricting. After redistricting, if you look at it, it's probably closer to 70%.
Okay.
This is now a situation where I can run against a Republican, and even if we split the vote 50-50, it still won't allow a Democrat to win. So that's kind of taking that tool out of the Republican Party's tool chest of what they normally do to scare people away from voting outside the Republican Party.
Right.
Now, one thing I did decide on this, which is something I had to do a lot of soul searching on, is I decided to run as an independent libertarian rather than seeking the endorsement from the Libertarian Party.
Okay.
Running as an independent because I want this to be about me. I want this to be about my policies, my vision. And right now, with the mess we have within the LP, I just felt that would be a distraction.
Okay.
And I didn't want to get tied up in all that.
Well, and let's talk about some of your policies. I mean, you're about protecting small businesses. You're about having advocacy for veterans when they come home. You're about the farmers because obviously you are one because you produce livestock. So I mean, and you're about bringing education back to the local level. People actually having the rights to their property. Ending the drug war. Let's decriminalize or legalize cannabis, and let's just get all this money back into our country too by getting rid of all this extra foreign aid, right?
Yep. I mean, I'm a big supporter of Thomas Massey's Prime Act. What the Prime Act would do is right now, as a small producer, if you came to me and say, Bull, I want to buy 50 pounds of hamburger, I got to look at you and say, I can't. I'm not, my processor is not USDA inspected, and that's the only way I can sell you cuts. Now, if you want to buy an eighth of a live cow, you can buy an eighth of a live cow. We'll bring it to the butcher, and you have to go just get your meat from them. But you actually have to do it. You actually have to buy a live animal or a portion of a live animal from me.
Okay.
What the Prime Act would do is that they would basically put it onto the states on whether they wanted to allow it to be sold, cuts, but sold by custom processors without needing to go through USDA processing.
Okay.
Uh,
There was a lot of guys up in Wisconsin that were coming into the shop wanting to convert reefer units into travel butcheries. Did you have that up in Minnesota as well?
I do not have one. I've not seen one yet, but I mean, there's talk of a few of them. It'd be an excellent idea. I mean, I know there's a strong market for it because right now there's just not enough butcher shops or custom butchers.
Well, we all know what happened with that. That was all the pre-planned COVID stuff when they shut everybody down because you're not essential, even though you produce a product that feeds people. They still said you weren't essential.
Well, I mean, actually, those places were still allowed to stay open. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, they were, but the bigger issue is the fact that a lot of those big processing plants got COVID or had to shut down for a few days. Well, their supply chain is so tight as far as new animals coming in Well, when they can't butcher for 3 or 4 days, they basically still have to get rid of those animals, and they just whore them out to the public. Well, guess what? I can no longer get a butcher slot because all these animals they just threw on the market took 8 months or 9 months worth of butcher slots. Where before I would have 45 days to 60 days to schedule a butcher, it's still 9 or 10 months out for me right now. If I go outside and I see 2 pigs making bacon, I have to go ahead and call the butcher that day. Say, okay, in 9 months or 10 months, I'm going to probably have 8 pigs for butchering.
Wow.
Okay, I mean that's kind of the schedule we're on. So it makes it a little difficult. When you were talking a little bit about the cannabis or the marijuana side, I'm in a predominantly agriculture area.
Yeah.
One of my big concerns is 40% of United States corn goes to ethanol production. What's going to happen in 8 to 10 years as electric vehicles roll out? You don't go through as much gas. What's going to happen to that ethanol production? It's going to bottom out, which is going to cause a lot of price drops if these farmers don't find other crops to farm. They can't just switch to another crop they already produce because that's going to flood that market.
Right.
So one of the things we're really pushing is the legalization on the federal level of hemp and cannabis, because that allows us to do it to move into a crop that we're currently not involved in. But the thing is, to get this to really work, you're going to need to build the infrastructure.
Yes.
That infrastructure doesn't exist right now, and it's going to take years and years to build it up. So we need to start building it up now. Problem is, until the federal government legalizes it, nobody's willing to make that commitment to the cost that it's going to take to build that infrastructure.
One of the things that was happening in Wisconsin, because now hemp production is legal, quote unquote legal, heavily regulated, heavily licensed. I mean, I would urge you to take a look at some of that we have up here, because you're right next to us in Minnesota, and I believe that some of the agriculture is still the same as far as being with the lands being able to produce it at a much higher rate than other places.
We're actually going to plant 2 acres of it this year.
Okay.
1 acre of hemp and then an acre of CBD quality hemp. And I am actually working with the University of Minnesota Crookston right now to develop a study to use the industrial hemp as animal feed.
Okay.
But the problem is with both of these, I mean, they have to have a THC level of, I think, 0.3.
Correct.
If it's anything more than that, you lose your crop. There's no insurance. They basically just come and burn your entire crop if you can't get that number below 0.3. That's a risk for a lot of people that may not be willing to roll that dice. I mean, even if you get the right cultivars and stuff like that, depending on weather conditions and everything else, there's a very real possibility you may bump that arbitrary number.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do you do? I mean, you lose everything. And that's some of the things that we're hoping to change and trying to address. We do want to fully legalize it, because we do feel like once you do that, there is no reason to have this limit anymore.
Correct.
If it's completely legalized. And we want to decriminalize it because, there's so many people who are in jail or with criminal histories based off of a plant.
Correct. And it's a miracle plant that provides so much and can provide endless possibilities, not only you're talking feed. We have industrial applications for textiles and everything else. Say again?
Hempcrete.
Yep. Well, and they have different resonated lumber applications that are stronger than oak and stuff like that too. I mean, hemp can be made into anything: clothing, shoes, whatever. You want to make a vehicle out of it, you could do that as well. If you wanted to burn that fuel for that vehicle, Henry Ford's already done this. So, hemp is a very great plant that has been, I would say, ostracized just because somebody else wanted to profit off of another commodity and they killed their competition by government policy. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, completely. I mean, and that's one of the things that I want to rectify or change. I mean, this is a hemp. I mean, marijuana is one of these things that's great for helping for PTSD and a lot of our veterans issues.
Hmm.
One of the things I really got upset with a couple weeks ago is there was a bill to do a study on how marijuana could help veterans and treat PTSD and stuff like this, and our representative voted against it. She was one of like less than 20%. Most of the Republicans even voted for it, but she is so anti anything to do with marijuana that she voted against it. She is. I am so pissed at her for so many on so many levels.
You
There
should.
was there's been three veterans bills that's gone through Congress in the last year to help veterans. She's voted against all three of them.
Yeah, that's insane. And I was going to say you should check her voting record whether she voted to send them to war in the first place. Because if she can vote to send them to war, maybe she could vote in actually to help them when they get back.
She did not vote to send them to war because she wasn't in yet, but she did vote to keep the authorization of use of force in effect.
Okay.
So she may
Yeah.
not have voted to send them there, but she voted to keep them there. And I'm getting so frustrated because one of these bills was a one-page clean bill, no junk, nothing else involved in it. It was just the one subject that would basically take veterans and automatically enroll them into the VA system if they were entitled and let them know that they're entitled. And they said no. She said no. There's another bill that would allow compensation for veterans who are a victim of burn pits, the toxic fumes from the burn pits. Voted no. I mean, it's just, and then when I put her campaign staff or her campaign director on the spot, going, "Hey, why did she vote this way?" The response I get back, well, that was a Nancy Pelosi trick, and you fell for it. Really? Do I look stupid? Okay, I mean, and it's like, well, they're going to package it all into a bill over to Senate, send it back, and then it'll get approved. And don't you know that's not what American people want? They don't want omnibus bills with everything shoved in it. I mean,
Right. Because it's just full of pork and it's just wasteful spending anyway.
exactly, and it's like, what do you? And for an area like ours that's so rural, that is so pro veteran, her voting record just does not reflect that. Uh,
A lot
and,
of representatives don't reflect that, and that's why they're representatives. They're not servants to the people.
yeah,
There are more veterans out here that'll give their lives for this country than there are anybody that is that I would look at to be that is a public official that's elected. That and I don't see any of them raising their hand to go fight. And we can take some Ukrainians, for example, that will go out and fight for their country more than our representatives do.
look, I've got a buddy of mine, and this is an interesting story because he was actually a Democrat that was running against me,
Okay.
and the Democratic Party pissed him off. So he finally said, because they told him, if you run and you get elected, we expect you to do 4 hours of fundraising for the DNC a day. And he's like, what?
Wow.
I ain't got time for that. I need to represent the people. You know, like, if you want our support, that's what you're going to have to agree to. And he's pretty much, peace out. I'm not going to run as a Democrat. So he then turned to run as an independent. Well, a couple months ago, I get a phone call from him because I mean I'm friendly with most of I was friendly with all of my people who I was running against, although they've slowly started dropping out. And Mark called me and said, "Dude, I got good news and bad news." I said, "Okay, hit me with it." Said, "The good news is your path to DC just got a lot easier. The bad news is because I'm volunteering to go fight and help in Ukraine." And Mark was an Air Force veteran, but he was in the he was in the entertainment section. He was actually a professional level singer. He has
Okay.
national anthem for various football games across the country, NFL games. He's at that level, but he never actually deployed to a combat zone. And he decided that was, and he called me and says, the reason I'm doing this, dude, is I think you got it handled on going to Congress. I don't feel I need to go now because I think you'll do it. And that frees me up to go and take care of this other issue, which in Ukraine. And he gave us his endorsement, and he was the last Democrat standing. At one point, we had as many as 3, and then 2 of them got redistricted out of our district when they did redistricting, and then Mark left. And I tell you what, it was humbling for him to tell me that, but at the same time, he felt that was a calling for him. And you know what? He's doing some great work over there. He ended up not fighting over there, but he's working through logistics, and he is acting as a middleman between people in the United States who want to voluntarily help and the end users.
That's excellent.
So he is proving the government don't need to do this. We can do this on our own.
And you need people out there that'll take the initiative and take the risk and go out and help other people, regardless of the risks of themselves, the personal risk.
And that's what he's doing. I mean, and to me, that's the ultimate example on why we don't need so much foreign aid. People are willing to do this if you give them the opportunity, if you give them the means. I worked for my last 10 years in the military. I was pretty much overseas most of the time. One of my final assignments was working for a U.S. embassy in Amman, Jordan. And seeing the amount of money that we would spend there was just mind-boggling. And when it comes to military aid, what people don't realize, it's not like we're cutting them a check and then they're buying what they need. A lot of times we're giving them a line of credit to use with American defense contractors. So basically, that's all we're doing. We're funneling this money to American contractors for their military. So we're buying the planes, we're buying the tanks, we just don't get to use them.
Right.
Okay? And it's crazy. I mean, just the amount of money doing it, and some of these countries they don't have the ability to perform the preventative and the care maintenance of these units that the United States military does. And a lot of times, they end up going to waste because they can't afford to maintain them. So I mean, one of my policies is to basically get rid of most of the military foreign aid, and limit foreign aid strictly to actual food, not money for food. But you know what? We can send you some American wheat. We can send you some American corn if you need it. That's what we can do, and we're supporting our individual farmers rather than corporations. And that's what I want to limit it to, and because again, that shows the world, we still care. I mean, you're starving. We don't want anybody to starve. But it should cut down a lot of that waste.
Well, Bill, do you think there's any like foreign treaties or NATO treaties or anything that's going to impede these? Or do you think that we should finally have full disclosure on a national level of what's actually going on with our foreign policies?
Well, and I think we do need to be transparent with it. I mean, I kind of get myself caught in the middle there because I understand. I mean, on one hand, I got the libertarian position of we should not have any foreign entanglements. And at the other hand, I see the strength in numbers rather than being on an island where you can act in concert and have a lot more power than if you acted alone.
Right.
So it's a delicate balancing act, and I'd be lying if I said I knew exactly where the line was or where the answer was, because right now I don't.
Okay.
But I do think we need to simplify it. We need to get out of the freaking nation building. And if we're going to have a defensive pact with the country, it needs to be a defensive pact, not we're working together to expand in this area or that area or so forth.
And then it's a one-sided financial obligation, which is usually coming from the United States side and not the actual domestic country. Do you think that what your friend did with legal immigration into the Ukraine? And do you think that people that are coming into this country want to do the same thing because they love the ideology of being free in this country?
Well, again, he's not immigrating there as much as going there on a special visa to help out with their situation.
But he
Uh,
did get a visa.
yeah. Well, and here's part of our problem with the immigration side is we make it so hard for somebody to do it legally. That's why they do it illegally.
Hmm.
And I have this argument with people all the time because I keep on saying I want an Ellis Island type immigration plan. Secure the borders, but have liberal emission standards. Uh, and the funny thing is, most people are cool with that. Eh, they don't always understand exactly what it is. And when I say I want Ellis Island type immigration, they're like, exactly. And we need to restrict this. And it's like, that's not Ellis Island immigration. uh,
Right, but that still goes into the foreign policy aspect. Is it kind of all ties together. So if you end the drug war, you can initiate trade, new treaties with countries, have good open policies as far as trade, and then the countries won't hate us because we're not being detrimental to them. Currency can pass through everybody's hands. They can keep their records. They can have passports. They can come to the country legally and come and go as you want.
Look, we need bodies. We need people. Part of the thing driving inflation, yes, is the printing of money. But on top of that is the fact that we have such a labor shortage that's driving up labor costs. Uh, I mean, my family's originally I'm from Louisiana. My family went through that major hurricane last year, and you know what? We're a year later, and they still don't have the bodies down there they need for contractors. There's still people with tarps on their roofs because they can't find people to work to do the repairs.
That's insane.
I've got ag producers here going, "Hey, we can expand. There's other things we can do, but I can't find the workers. Can you help when you if you get elected? Can you help us get some more workers?" And I mean that option should be there. I mean, I really think that if people had the option for immigrating legally, they would do so. The reason they do it illegally is because they get so desperate. They're in such a rough
Yep.
situation, and they do what they feel they have to do. And the problem, my frustration with a lot of Americans is, we would do the same damn thing.
Correct.
Okay,
If you were in that exact same situation, you could absolutely
we're going to
understand being in that person's shoes, coming here illegally.
so let's fix the immigration system. I mean, you've got the guys who have been here 15, 20 years, whatever, staying out of trouble. They're even paying their freaking taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people we want. Those are people who are contributing, who are doing the right things. Yes, they broke the law 15 years ago or 20 years ago when they snuck into the country. But what they've done since then, I think, deserves a little bit of recognition and saying, hey, you know what? We need, appreciate you're here. We need you.
Do you think that a shift in the transition of education has done a lot of the detriment to our workforce just because they don't understand what tangible skill sets are anymore? It's all, I could do everything from a computer. I don't need to learn anything. I don't need to get
Well,
dirty. I mean, we have that same problem in the diesel technician industry and the heavy equipment industry. We can't find enough technicians to work on the equipment.
yep. Well, definitely. I mean, there was such a push with people getting college educated at the expense of trades. Uh, I mean, I get so, and one of the things that frustrates me so much right now is you hear everybody screaming about federal loans and forgiving federal loans. And well, you know what? We should have been doing before you get a federal loan. What is your degree going to be in? What is your earning capability on that? Just like any other loan, you do a assessment to find out, are they going to be able to pay back this loan, instead of just saying, yes, we'll pay for your liberal arts degree.
Well, and what happened to our 15, 16, 17-year-olds that used to come in as apprentices and learn the trades to where they'd have 3 to 5 years of on-the-job training by the time they were 21, 22, and making decent money where
Yeah.
they didn't have to worry about their,
Oh,
I got to pay this $200-300 a month loan payment.
money, making good money and not owing a loan.
Yeah. And people don't understand that, and it's lost because they think that fiat currency controls everything. But your true assets are always going to be in your mind and what you can contribute to other human beings for their survival.
Yeah. I mean, and So I think that there's too much of a push for education's sake. Uh, I mean, once the government, as like anything else, puts their hands on the scale of supply and demand, everything gets jacked up.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what happened there. Is the government put their hands on the scale and said a college education is more valuable than VOTEC. And what has left us with is a skill shortage. I mean, it's hard to find electricians. It's hard to find a lot of plumbers now. I mean, and when you get them, I mean, you're paying out of the rear end for them because they know they can.
Hmm.
And it's the whole supply and demand thing.
What would you do for the local Minnesotans as far as getting that education system back to where people can make good money, have a decent wage, and then have a skill set that they can transfer to any position that they want, including to doing stuff on their own?
Well, I really think you need to take the federal government out of the picture. One of the first things I would do, and I told people this before, if I get elected, I'm going to knock on Thomas Massey's door and say, where do I sign for the Prime Act, and where do I sign to eliminate Department of Education? Because that's going to be my first order of business. I can contribute from day one. uh, and we got to put that power back on the local level because the local level knows more what's needed. They know more what's acceptable in their communities. Because let's face it, we don't like to be top fed. We don't like it to be told this is what you will do by somebody 2,000 miles or 1,500 miles away. They don't know us. We run it here in Western Minnesota. We run into that to our own state where St. Paul and Minneapolis basically try to tell us how to run Western Minnesota, and we're like, you're not us. You don't understand us. It doesn't work the same here as it does in the cities. And they have a hard time understanding that. I mean, we run into this even on the political side. Is there's certain political organizations, liberty-based organizations in Minnesota, who keep on was telling me, dude, you can't run as an independent, you can't run as a libertarian, you have to run as a Liberty Republican to have a chance. And I tell that to the people in this district, and they're like, they don't understand. That's the way things are there, but that's not how things are here. We're a state that put Jesse Ventura in the governor's mansion.
Yep.
Okay, let's not. Who did endorse me, by the way.
Awesome. I
So
think that Jesse does a lot of things for people as far as informing them of what their government is actually doing to them, not doing for them.
yeah, and so I mean, we've got that history of voting outside the two-party system. We've got that history of being Ron Paul Liberty type supporters. What we have not had is somebody to pick up the flag after Ron Paul left. And that's where what I'm hoping to do. I'm hoping to reignite the revolution in an area where he's already had great support. Uh, I mean, the people are there. They just need to believe. That's our hardest issue we're fighting right now, is to convince people to believe. Once we get them over that ledge of saying, we can do this and we can make a change. And guess what? If we do this change, we forced the other parties, the duopoly, to respond to us, not us responding to them.
And I think that's an absolute fact. I mean, do you think that people actually can believe in themselves again because they've been propagandized with you need to be dependent on government. You can't do anything without the dependency of government. You know, and basically that's kind of true because you have to go into government facilities, you have to pay the government for licensing and all this other stuff to in order to pursue your right to happiness and to be something that you want to be.
I think we can. But what I do think we need to do is we need to control expectations. This is a long process. This is
Yes.
not a tomorrow you're going to be able to do this. No, it's going to be taking things back one step at a time, a little bit at a time. Because let's be honest, I mean, big change scares the hell out of people. I mean, it kind of goes with the legalization of drugs. If I come up here and I tell people I want to legalize everything right now, starting tomorrow, they're going to look at me and say, "You're freaking insane."
Well, we got to look at the 9/11 and the Patriot Act, and they thought those bills were for their safety. And I think that the power of fear has overcome most of the United States. But I think that in this 20 years since then, I mean, they really see that it was not to their benefit.
Well, and that's one of the things I just put out in the podcast we just recently did is every iteration of Congress basically adds more and more to the Patriot Act. I mean, look, you had this association of educators wanted to invoke the Patriot Act against parents who were protesting at their school boards.
Great.
That's literally what they asked the United States government to do, is invoke the Patriot Act. Now, the federal government said, no, this is not what it's for. This is not. But you know what? The fact is, you had people who wanted to do that, who wanted to force the issue by doing that. I mean, and that wasn't, I mean, yes, I understand the thought process. People were scared, but you can either live in a cage and be safe, or you can live dangerously and be free. Which do you want? I mean, it's really your choice. It's really Americans' choice. And unfortunately, you have a lot of people who would rather be in a cage and be safe than be free and live dangerously, or live without that safety net.
Right, and I think what's been institutionalized in the people is that the government is here. They're your friend. They're here to take care of you. They're If you need something, they're here to back you up. Oh, you got a hard time in life? Hey, all you got to do is give us all your information all the time and let us know everything about your life, and we'll help you out. But now they can track everything that we do without even our permission. They can pick us up even if without a warrant. They can send any American citizen to Gitmo whenever they want. They can just come scoop you up in the middle of the night. Oh well, that person just disappeared because you know uh, warrantless arrest is not a new thing. It's just that people don't understand that these laws can be used against American citizens.
All I could say is, if they walk in and they hear somebody yell "Roomba Claymore," they better listen.
I mean, it's really insane of how much people are disconnected from what's going on to the process that control their daily lives. And not, I mean, not everybody has to be political, but I think they should understand the quote unquote rules and regulations of what's going on. I mean, a lot of people don't even understand the criminal code and why did I get arrested for this? I mean, I seen a one video of an officer that was like doing a prank or something, enforcing the most ridiculous laws that are actually on the books, like arresting people for like eating a donut on the corner,
Yep.
or it's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, and that's where, I mean, we need to start taking ownership. I mean, that's part of the issue that's driven this in my mind, is that people basically started delegating their responsibilities to the government.
Hmm.
I mean, from education to childcare. I mean, they started counting on the government to do all these things, and guess what? Other organizations who could have helped or whatever got lost in the shuffle. I mean, that's why the government is needs to help with so many issues, because a lot of these things the churches used to take care of, or the fraternal societies used to take care of. But then people were like, "Well, I'm paying taxes to take care of that. Why do I want to get these organizations to do it? Let the
Right.
government do it, because that's what I'm paying taxes for." And basically, it created laziness. It created a buffer where they didn't have to be involved in the people who are downtrodden, or needing help. Uh, it used to be we had so much pride in ourselves that we didn't want to accept help unless it was absolutely necessary. But you know what?
Yes.
And you know what? We don't, and we're still that way when it comes to our friends and family and other people we know. But if it's coming from Uncle Sam, we're good for it. We're all right when it comes to getting it from Uncle Sam. But
Yeah, and I just don't understand why people buy into that crap. I really don't.
I mean, and you know what? And to a certain extent, I mean, I understand it. If the government's going to offer it, who's going to say no?
Right, and I mean, I think that's the disconnect too. Is people don't understand that you're taking from your neighbors in order to pay yourself. Just because Uncle Sam says that it's okay, it doesn't mean that it's actually
Well,
legit. And we have so much fraud, waste, and abuse with it, and it just gets abused and abused and abused. And it's not even just the government abusing it; it's everybody that thinks that they're entitled to it, so they should just get it. I mean, with what happened with George Floyd in Minnesota and stuff like that, and the outcome with the trial. I mean, and what happened in Wisconsin and Kenosha. I mean, it's kind of getting to a point where people are starting to engage in like in public conflict. That's kind of like being in theater. It's like, you know, it's really starting to become like a war zone state. And depending on where you're from, I mean, if what was it, Portland and Seattle, you know, they had these zones of supposedly where there's no government, and then it was just complete and utter
Autonomous.
chaos.
Yeah. No, it's if we're going to save our country, we need to do something. I mean, and it comes down to us. I mean, it's the two parties are tearing us apart. They don't care about the American people. They care about two things: getting in power or staying in power. That's it. I mean, when you start talking about congressional representatives, DC shows that as a tick mark. It's either a tick mark for me to get into the majority, or it's a tick mark that if I don't get, puts me in the minority. So I mean, to them, that's all it is. Is you don't. So when a new representative gets up there as part of the two party system, they don't have any say. Get in line. You're just a low level on this party. I mean, you'll do what we say because you want our help to get reelected.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the things I tell people here all the time. Is with me, they got to deal with me. They don't have to deal with a boss in the party or whatever else. Do you want your own Joe Manchin? Because that's what you're going to get. You're going to get your person here who's not going to be kowtowing to the parties, who's going to do right by his constituents, and who doesn't have to go along to get along. Because guess what? If we're going to have it, probably it's going to be a close difference between the Republicans and the Democrats for control of the House next year.
Mm-hmm.
What if I am the middle vote?
And who
Think about
knows
that.
what's going to happen in other races across this country?
Yep.
I mean, there could be a gold wave. I mean, people don't understand that when I see gold, I think of first place. I think of the Olympics. I think of a tangible asset that used to back our currency. I think that's what represents mostly in the libertarian spectrum as well, is that, you know, it's about having secure currency. It's about having secure skill sets that keep your sanctity in yourself, not relying on some other entity to give you your life, liberty, and happiness.
And here's the other thing I want people to think about is, I mean, you have people like Tom Massey. There's a gentleman running over in Congressional District 1 right now, Jeremy Munson, to replace Hagedorn, who passed away of cancer this year. And Jeremy he's a Republican, but he is cut of the same cloth as Massey. But again, you get somebody like me or another libertarian getting into Congress, and all of a sudden, if they wanted to switch over and come caucus with the libertarians, they're not alone. They don't want. I mean, they don't necessarily want to be the first, but if there's a group that they can join instead of head up or lead, it can happen. I mean,
Right. Well,
and that's how we become part of the. That's where we start getting our control to start getting our freedoms and our life and our liberties back.
I think the libertarians also run on a platform that the end game for the Libertarian Party is to not actually have to have it be necessary to exist anymore. Do you think that's a possibility that we could get there in maybe 100 years, 150 years, so that our great grandchildren don't have to deal with the things that we're dealing with currently, with the lack of privacy, the lack of sovereignty, the inability to get assets now, the lack of skills. I mean, and now it's the ability to actually get goods and services.
I don't think so. I think you're always going to have a wolf at the door that we're going to need liberty-minded people to guard against. I mean, I'd love to say yes, but humanity hasn't proven that they can do that yet. Okay, I mean,
Correct.
if
Chris
you
By
go,
said the same thing, and he's another Army veteran. People understand that human nature is not necessarily to be tolerable or to be good to other human beings, because that primal instinct is to survive.
survive and you know what? You survive by being the top of the food chain.
Correct.
I mean, and that so I know I think we're always going to have to be involved in some way to protect. I mean, because unfortunately, there's not enough selfless service type of people.
Well, and I ask people always the same thing too: is there's no answer to the question of everlasting human want. I
Hmm.
mean, and that's another thing that's a part of human nature is that if you do succeed, you want more. That's it shouldn't satisfy you. You want to succeed and grow off of that success.
Yep. And I think you're always going to have that. So yeah, unfortunately, I think it's going to be a battle we're going to constantly have to guard against. Uh, I mean, you might have little pockets who can do it, but they're only going to do it until somebody realizes they can take advantage of it.
Right. Well, and you might not want to F around and find out with some people because they might just have skill sets that are way beyond yours. And, you might want to just leave them people alone. They're doing their thing, you
They,
know.
they can test their assumptions at their earliest convenience.
Correct. Correct. And I think that's another thing that's been going around in our country too is that people have gone to uh, be more health minded, to be more self defense minded, because you never know what you're going to run into in this day and age.
Yep.
It's always a crapshoot. There's not really any security in human interactions, just as long as you know that you shouldn't have to worry about violence. Because if there was the potential of violence, people are on an equal playing field. And I think that the Second Amendment provides that perfectly. And that includes against the government. What's your point of view on the Second Amendment? Do you think that felons or any kind of non-violent criminals should have their rights to a constitutional right to firearms? Because as a felon myself, I don't have the right to own a firearm, but I would say that my crime was just speaking words. So I wasn't violent towards anybody or anything like that. But because I am a felon, I can't like teach my son how to shoot or anything like that.
To me, what's a crime has been your debt to society has been paid. It's been paid. Uh, I do think for anybody with a non-violent crime should have their rights to own a firearm restored. I think if there's a case where they're going to lose that right because of their actions as a violent felon or something like that, that needs to be on a case by case basis, not across the board. The judge needs to make that as part of the sentence, and with that justification and with an appeal process. Uh,
Well, and most people who are repeat felons or something like that, they don't. It doesn't matter. They're gonna carry a firearm
yeah,
anyways.
yeah. I mean, dang it, I really wish I hadn't lost all those firearms in that boating accident. But I mean, libertarians
Hey,
are terrible boat people. I mean, we are. We are.
yeah, I mean it's one of them things when sometimes when you go out fishing, instead of grabbing your rod and reel, you grab your rifle and you cast that fucker right off the edge of the boat. So
They should just
it.
let us drive boats.
um Bull, we got about 10 minutes here. I want you to give your pitch to everybody in the United States and let them know where you're coming from. Let everybody in Minnesota know where you're coming from and why they should vote for you in District 7, ready to rock and roll for the House.
Okay, I'm gonna hit on one other topic before I go into that, and that's veterans issues. This is a prime plank on my platform. I get so frustrated because if you look at anybody in the country running for Congress, they're going to have a section in their webpage about veterans, how much they care for them, how much they want to take care of them. Yet for 20 plus years, we lose 22 people a day to suicide, 22 vets a day. We keep on doing the same crap over and over again, expecting different results. And they keep on using that blurb to try to get elected or reelected without actually doing anything. That's one of my issues with my competitor. I mean, she's got that on her webpage. Yet for the 3 opportunities she's had to support veterans, she voted against it. When she had an opportunity to vote for a study with marijuana to help PTSD, she voted against it. Yet her campaign director will look me in the face. Well, she's very pro-veteran. Really? No, she's not. What? And I think we might have to go outside the outside the box to find answers to this. One of my suggestions is when you're a retiree with the military, you get TRICARE for life. It's basically our insurance policy that covers us for the rest of our lives. What I would like to see is a mental health portion of that be formed, and it goes to every veteran. Every veteran, once you get out, you at least have mental health insurance or care. It might get, because a lot of times people don't necessarily want to go through the VA. They don't necessarily want to risk going to anything associated with the government for a mental health issue. They don't know where it's going to be filed. They don't know who's going to be told what. And to do that, they need to have an insurance, private insurance that they can use. How would I pay for it? I mean, because that's always a question that comes up when you talk about libertarians, is that for that every soldier on duty or an active duty, you've got that money right now that goes to Medicare. Well, let's use that money and use that towards what we need for our mental health care for our soldiers. We need to change things up. We need to make something different. We have got to change the scenario, because again, we just lose too many people. I mean, it's frustrating in the fact that everybody comes and gives this lip service, but nobody actually comes up with a fresh idea. I mean, you just want to throw money at it, but you don't actually want to change anything.
Correct.
So that's a big point with me. I mean, just 22 brothers and sisters a day is 22 too many. Now, why should you support me? Why should you come up and say why should I support Bull Johnson? We've got a great opportunity here. I mean, we've got an opportunity where it's right now. It's a two-person race. The grassroots of the Republican Party is not happy. They're looking for another option. They're looking for another choice. We can be that choice. I like to I'll tell people sometimes, and because when we talk to people, and I've run into a lot of Trump supporters, and it's like, why do you like Trump? Well, he was an outsider. Well, guess what? So am I. He tell people what he thought. Well, so will I. I just got a little bit attacked. Okay. I mean, I'm a poor man's Trump. I'm not the arrogant rich man's Trump. I'm the poor man's Trump with common sense. And that seems to go over relatively well with them. Because they don't like him as a character, they don't like him as a person, but he was an outsider. And people tell me all the time, we need common sense. Well, guess what? Get somebody who works with your hands and sends them up there, and you're going to get some common sense answers. Get somebody who's had situations where they go, how in the hell am I going to pay my bills this month? Those are the people with common sense who have been through some situations that you have. I mean, I don't want to do this. I never wanted to do this. I'm doing this because I felt I had to. I'm doing this because I felt that the two parties are tearing our country apart. And I mean, I know nationalist is a bad word to a lot of people, but I do love my country. I do want to see my country do well. And to do that, I really think we need to change. We got to take the power out of the corporations. We got to take the power out of the politicians and give it back to the people where it was supposed to be from the beginning.
Correct.
I've already pledged. You know what? I've already signed the term limit pledge. No more than 3 tours in the House and 1 in the Senate. If y'all insist, if y'all want me to do the Senate, I know how most of the people in Minnesota feel about their 2 senators. So unfortunately, I think that's probably going to be a possibility. But when I retired to come to my farm. I retired to come here, raise my animals, and relax and be self-sustainable, not need anybody else. But when I see what's happened, I feel that we're being called. I may be being called back to finish what I started. When I joined the military. So I mean, we need to do that. I mean, last 2 weeks of this month we have our make or break time period. That's our petition period. We've basically got 2 weeks to get 1,000 signatures, which is not unreasonable. But the catch is we really need 2,000, because if we have twice as many as we need, they won't try to challenge the hell out of us. If we're close, They're going to nitpick every signature, trying to get them thrown out. I mean, you have some states right now, they're throwing out signatures because they forgot to date it. I mean, it's terrible. So, I mean, we've got a lot of things in the hopper, including some endorsements that when they come through, people will go, "Oh shit!" I mean,
Sweet.
they're the type of endorsement that makes you also run to a potential favorite. Okay, I mean, we're talking about previous congressmen who are willing to take that stand, and
Sweet.
so I mean that's a big deal, especially in this area. I mean, the people we're talking about. I mean, it'll really make a difference. We've got a lot of people who are volunteering right now to get these signatures, but that's our next step. I mean, I tell people, well, I just hired a communications director, and he told me I had to stop saying I was begging for money and to start saying we are asking for your financial support.
Take the Bernie Sanders route.
Yeah,
I need your support.
yeah, and we do. I mean, because this is not cheap. I mean, I'm not made out of money. I'm a retired NCO. I'm a retired enlisted guy. Okay, I'm not even an officer with their big retirements. Okay, I mean, and the price of hay and the price of corn this past year. Trust me, I can't say that I'm a politician now, but we had a thing in the car business that we were sucking a certain appendage for beer money. Okay, and that's how it is sometimes. I mean, there's no free extra money available, and but if we want to do this, I need your help. We need everybody's help. We need it can be $15, $20, $30. Anything helps to go forward. My district is 42,000 square miles, 38 counties. At today's gas prices, to make the transportation, that's going to hurt.
Right.
Okay. I mean, we're going to try to do county fairs. Guess what? Every county fair we do to set up a table, they want $100. 38 county fairs. You're looking at $4 to $5 grand just to cover our table fees, not including getting to the fairs.
Correct.
And that's what's going to make a difference: is making it to these fairs, shaking the hands. So if y'all would help us, I'd very much appreciate it. You can donate by coming to our website, which is BullJohnsonForCongress.us. Again, BullJohnsonForCongress.us. What he's pointing to there is my email, bull@BullJohnsonForCongress.us. So if you take off the bull at, that's on the webpage. Come out, take a look. Let me know what you think. I mean, come follow us on Facebook. I mean, we've got about 3,300 followers on Facebook right now, which for a libertarian congressional candidate is pretty damn good. But we need to get to that 5,000 or 6,000 mark, because that's where my competitor is at. If we can match her on social media, that's going to help us get earned media. Because right now the media is ignoring us. We got to change that. We have to start doing stuff that makes it where they can no longer ignore us. So that's my pitch. I appreciate it, guys. Keep me in mind. If you have any questions, come on Facebook, ask me. I answer every question that's asked.
Very accessible man. I know for myself. I mean, finally, third time was a charm, Bull. I mean, I fell asleep on you the first time, which I really apologize for. I was dead tired, but and then, with the illness that you had the last time we scheduled, I mean, but we finally got her done. We got the third time is a charm. I really think you got a good head on your shoulders. I think that your initiatives are really going to speak to the people of your county and your constituents. I mean, it speaks to me. I'm a vet, and I've dealt with the VA and all the gambits, all that fun jazz. So that's why I live out in the middle of nowhere anymore, because I can't deal with people. I have to be on my own. I have to. My sanity is dependent on this. So
the number of vets who tell me that I am living their dream right now is just mind-boggling. It really is.
Well, sometimes it's a dream, sometimes it's a nightmare. Just depends if you still get up every day to keep doing it.
Yep.
Bull Johnson for Congress. He is the man that's running in District 7 of Minnesota. I really appreciate you coming on the Lunatic Libertarian, man. And I think that everybody's going to love this. Get out there, vote for this man. He's out here for you, not for himself, out here for you. I'm Justin Lomness, the Lunatic Libertarian. That's Bull Johnson, Travis Bull Johnson for Congress.us, and we are out.